pause, okay? We are live. Hello, Facebook. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you all. Okay.
Oh, let's admit.
Yeah, Shay.
Okay. Cool.
Everyone, thank you for joining us. Good to see everyone. It's great to see y'all. How you doing, Shay and Charlie and Kayla? Shay, good to see you guys. So tonight we're going to switch it up a little bit. I mean, we're going to talk about
Rachel, you really came. You're watching. Hi. So fun. Connecting with old friends has been one thing I've done a little bit more than in the past during this corona, and it's just loving it. Thanks for coming. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to give you guys an update that, a few weeks ago, I don't remember when it was, we talked about habits and doing healthy habits and all kinds of stuff. It's on our page. You're welcome to go back and see it. But anyways, I've been doing my best to really instill that into my life and take on new habits. So one thing I just found really cool. First, let me just share. I'm very excited. I ordered myself a new planner. I got the big version. It's by, hi Lee. Hi Mom. I'm glad you guys could come. It's by Day Designer. I really recommend. I'm loving this planner so far. And one thing that I learned that was really cool about it is they have a lot of free printables online. So you just click what you want, they email it to you, and that's how you get it. So anyways, I just started this habit tracker. So in the habit tracker, what's really cool about it is I used to go through the day and there were certain things I really knew I needed to get done in the evening because that's my only time to get things done. So exercise, doing the dishes, wiping the counters, taking my vitamins, all kinds of things. And I was like, sometimes with I'm like, did I take it already? Did I not? I can't remember. But things just felt like a task, another task to get done. But now with my handy dandy habit tracker, I have all the things, and I added some also that I want to do written down on the side. So I remember the things I want to do every day. And it also allowed me to take on new things when I just thought I couldn't take on anything new. For example, the landline phone. Every night before I go to bed, I make sure it's hung up. That's something. Oh, you have no sound? Does anyone else have sound?
Folks on Facebook, if you can hear us, just give us a thumbs up.
Well, we won't see the thumbs up on Facebook.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we can see.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, got it. Cool. Okay. So what's it called? Sorry. Okay. So I was able to even add new things that I didn't even know I'd be able to add. And instead of it feeling like a daunting task to do at the end of a day, it's really exciting. I just go through my list. Thanks, Lee. I just go through my list, my habit tracker, and I just check things off. And if I don't get to every single thing every day, I missed one thing the first day, I missed a couple of things the next day, but that's okay. And I can just start new the next day. So I'm really loving it. Thank you. It's making a huge difference the last couple. See, I'm 2 days into it. So today's day number 3. We'll see how I do. But I have on there to spend quality time with each of the kids and things I know I need to do. Like the babies started eating solid foods. And I know, though, if I don't have it in my habit tracker, sometimes it's like it's busy and who's going to feed her. But now it's like part of just what I do in my habits. So I don't have to forget about that either.
Nice. So. And the habit tracker is how I've built up my push-ups, my daily push-ups. Can anyone guess how many push-ups I'm up to in one set? You want to offend me? Not 57. Charlie's close. 56. 35, Shay thinks. Okay. It's 56. Charlie, you know me, bro. You are on the ball. Wow. Okay. Yes. So these little habits go a long way. But we wanted to talk about tonight, actually, it doesn't actually have much to do with that at all. Just want to fill you in on kind of our life.
Yeah.
But
166,
Moshe, my man. One day, baby, one day.
Oh, Rachel says 13.
13. Oh, Rachel, killing me.
You haven't seen us in a while. It's okay. And just to say hi to Matt and Lexi, Yaron. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for joining in.
It's good to see everyone. It is. Okay. So what we want to talk about tonight again is judging favorably. I think, in general, it's probably a good idea. Maybe we'll look at kind of interpersonal relationships, moving forward to some extent, at least. We're now entering this period of time in which we're approaching the holiday of Tisha B'Av, in which, as we said last week, the temple was ultimately destroyed because of this baseless hatred. And obviously right now, there's just a lot of contention out there. And we want to maybe just work on improving our own interpersonal relationship game, our own perspectives to better relate to other people and to improve our relationships with other human beings. So tonight we're looking at the Jewish obligation of judging favorably. And we're going to turn it over a bunch to you guys as well to help us understand, in certain circumstances, how do you judge favorably? Sometimes it could be hard. So
can I just say one more thing about that?
Oh, for sure.
Is there's so much going on in the world, and it's important to talk about it. At the same time, if all we do is just reacting to what's around us, then what are we, right? This is like our living intentionally. This goes along with everything else we've been reading and doing, that we have to set time to talk about what's important to us and build ourselves from the inside out. And if we do something like this and we talk about judging favorably, then it might just be easier to go on everyday lives, whatever comes up, because we're working on ourselves. And it just, the stronger we are, the less things knock us down.
Beautiful. I would also, at this point, like to thank our unofficial sponsor, Runa. Runa is the best drink ever. It's a nice amount of caffeine, and it's just wonderful. So pick yours up today at Natural Grocers. Runa, thank you to our unofficial sponsor. Runa, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you'd like to officially be our sponsor, you could. Okay. Anyway, so.
Hi, Annie.
You want to tell kind of how we thought about this? Yeah.
Okay. So I was just, part of my new habit tracker is also, one thing I love doing is listening to Torah classes. That really fills me up and allows me to give over to everyone else in my life. So, and for myself. So I was listening to a class and they brought up this topic and I just thought it was really cool. And Torah Anytime, shout out to Torah Anytime, Rabbi Yisrael Young Rice. I just love his short classes, a lot of content, very practical. So is that what I was going to say?
I guess you're going to share that he spoke about in this week's Parsha.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Because it's on my habit tracker, I've been really good about listening to a class every day. Okay. Anyways, so this week's Parsha, it's coming up. It's so cool. This also relates. It's so timely to the Parsha this week. Learning Parsha could be really awesome. So in this week's Parsha, one of the things that happens is it says to remember what happened with Miriam when the whole story, how it went down, was there was something with Moshe and his wife, and Miriam saw what was going on. And thank you. Oh, this is my tea I warmed up about an hour ago. Anyways, so so Miriam was concerned about Moshe and his wife, so she went and she said to Miriam's Moshe's sister, to their other brother Aaron, and just brought it up and said what do you think? What should we do anything? And she's actually punished for this because she spoke about obviously these people are on a really high level and they're held to that level. So God doesn't expect all of us the same thing, but in the circumstance, it was not okay that she spoke about her brother behind his back. And can you just take over?
Perfect. Yes.
Thanks.
Right. So basically, it wasn't even that egregious. She just kind of wondered why it is that Moshe had separated from his wife, because the reason was that when he had to be prepared to speak to God at any moment, there's this, before we got to Torah, husbands and wives had to separate. Before we could all hear God speak, there had to be this spiritual cleanliness. They had to be on this level. Because Moshe could, by the way, That's why I like teaching online, because when I have to cough like that, I don't have to be scared of infecting all of you with any sort of like virus. So I think we're moving to the online model forever, just so that I can cough without feeling guilty. Anyways, sorry, I digress. So Moshe, had to. There's this idea that before we hear God speak to us, you have to separate from one's spouse, for a couple days prior. But Moshe never knew when it was that God would speak to him, so therefore he had to separate. So Miriam was kind of like discussing this with her brother Aaron, and therefore, she's punished because this is considered a type of lashon hara, and she went into quarantine. She had to be quarantined. She had to be separate from everybody else because of this lashon hara, and she had saras. So that's how we kind of turn to this, that she didn't give him the benefit of the doubt. If only she would have given him the benefit of the doubt, none of this saras would have happened. She would have been punished. So it's a lesson for us to give people the benefit of the doubt. Not only do we see this from the Parsha, we also see this explicitly in the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 15. And the Bible says like this. It says, "You shall not commit a perversion of justice. You should not favor the poor. You should not honor the great. B'tzedek tishpoit amisecha." For you Sephardic brethren out there, Moshe, if you're out there, b'tzedek tishpot amitecha. So with righteousness, you should judge your fellow. You should judge your fellow with righteousness. That you should judge him appropriately. The Talmud says, actually, the Chafetz Chaim writes about this, that this verse is actually a fulfillment of a verse that comes only a few. Sweetheart, I can't multitask when you're like talking. It's just hard. Okay, so just, you want to go play over there or something, or go play Legos or something? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so mostly it's on my strength, multitasking. Anyway, so the Torah tells us a few verses later, you should love your fellow like you love yourself. The golden rule. And the Chafetz Chaim says that judging people righteously is actually also a fulfillment of that verse as well, of judging others like yourself, presumably loving others like you love yourself. Presumably, the things that you want done for you, you should do to others, and I want people to judge me favorably, therefore it's my obligation to judge other people favorably. It says as well, in Pirkei Avos, it says in chapter 1, Mishnah 6, it says, I'm trying to remember the exact Hebrew phrase. Havedan is called Adam lechaschus. You should judge everybody favorably. What does this mean, to judge people favorably? You should judge them, righteously. What does that mean exactly? So we actually have a couple commentaries on this in Pirkei Avos, and it basically says that if someone is overall just a wonderful person and they only basically ever do good, so whatever you see them do, you should just assume the best, because they have no track record of ever doing anything wrong. Similarly, if someone, you don't really know them, right? You don't know them, you don't know if they're good, you don't know if they're bad, so judge them if you can on the side of, ideally try to judge them favorably. If you know someone specifically to not be all that good, so you're not necessarily required to judge favorably, but it might be a pious way to go. It might be, to try to understand their perspective and to see where they're coming from that would have led them to act in this way. So maybe they committed this act, but to try to understand, why it is they did that, where they're coming from, etc. So that's a second indicator, again, is this Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. There's another Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, by the way, where it says that you cannot judge anyone until you've walked in their shoes, until you've reached their place. And if there's one thing I can tell you after being a rabbi for many, 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 many years, and you get to know people and you learn about kind of what goes on in their life, we have no idea what goes on in people's lives. You have no idea even the surface of what's going on with someone. So therefore, you can never judge them. You, by definition, will never, ever be in their situation. You'll never be in their shoes. You'll never be in their place. You have no right to judge them because you have no idea where they're coming from. And that's just, so we have in the Torah several verses indicating this. We have in the Mishnah, in Pirkei Avos, several places that indicate this. Clearly, this is something that is indeed very, very important. So,
pause for a
please,
second.
yes.
First, I want to say hi to Ariel and Yael. Thanks for joining us, guys. I also wanted to say that how many times have you been in a situation and you did something and you're like, someone else who's watching me, they might think X, Y, or Z, but really I have really good intentions. And just kind of like be a little bit nervous of like, what do people think? I hope they're judging me favorably. I don't know if you've ever felt that way. Feel free to give a thumbs up. Also, I just think it's so cool that the Torah acknowledges this gray area where, depending on a person's what they normally do, that like there's this, this concept to judge favorably. At the same time, it's not just judge everyone favorably, period. It's very practical that if someone is known not to do favorable things, then you're allowed to take caution, and it's not like all or nothing. There's this gray area in between. Beautiful. And I think that's really cool.
Beautiful. I would like to, before we continue, just say, I've realized in recent days, I think the two most pleasurable experiences known to mankind is one, to be able to do what I'm doing right now and to stroke my beard. And two is to mow the lawn, and then to walk outside after and to just see the beautiful grass sprouting out just gorgeously. So I digress once again. But what we wanted to discuss now is actually, we've covered the obligation to judge favorably. Clearly, there's a Torah obligation. We've covered 4 different sources where we see it. I want to go through a little bit. We'd like to go through the benefits of it. First and foremost, you're benefiting your overall well-being in your relationships with other human beings. I imagine a way to go through life in some sort of, I see what you did there, Charlie, degrass. I like that. But you could go through life not judging favorably, right? You could go and always assume the worst. Always assume that they're out to get you. Someone's out to, they had it from me. The reason I didn't get a thank you card is because they hate me and they didn't appreciate the gift. The reason I didn't get the invitation is because they really despise me. Instead of, judging more favorable. So
thinking like that is really, it's so self-centered. It's thinking that like everyone else's actions are really about me. Right. But of course they're not. Everyone is living their own life, and we try to overlap in a favorable way, but everyone has their own stuff going on.
Right. And I would throw out there how many friendships, really meaningful, great friendships, have been absolutely destroyed because people did not abide by this, because they didn't judge favorably. And that's a sad thing. That is a very sad thing. So that's one. Two, again, so on one level, you're doing it for your relationships with others and for others as well. But two is you're really doing it for yourself, right? I saw a profound line when I was looking more into this topic. And there's an author, actually, that that those who were on our Israel trip in February, shout out to Moshe, Sheras, Adam, and the crew over there. So at dinner on Friday night, we were at this really nice Shabbos table in the Old City in Jerusalem, and there was an author who happened to be in attendance. Her name is Sarah Yocheved Rigler, a really awesome author, and she writes in an article that I checked out, and I want to just quote her. She had, I think, an interesting story in her path to Judaism, but she writes, 3,000 years before the advent of cognitive psychology, the Torah recognized that our attitudes and words and actions are not formed by what the other person said or did, but rather by our interpretation of what the other person said or did. If I were writing that right now, I would like italicize and bold the word interpretation. It's not what they actually did, but it's how we interpret it. Right? I finished this book by noted author and speaker Charlie Harari, motivational Jewish speaker, and he talks all the time about this idea of schema or schema. I don't know how to pronounce it, but basically so much in our life is just based on how we perceive things. And if we're able to alter the way that we perceive things, we alter our life. And I think that's the same idea over here. So it's so much about how we perceive things, our own perception, and to the extent that we're able to work on this, we will improve our own life tremendously, in my humble opinion.
So just to review the idea, because it's just so cool, it's not that I'm going through my life judging based on what someone else said or did to me, but I'm judging them based on my interpretation of what they did, right? How many times do you get in an argument and someone's like, and it's like, no, I said this. No, you didn't. You said this. I'm like, there's two different stories, but what really happened?
Right. And the awesome part about it is that it's your choice how to interpret it. That's your choice, right? So you're not like objectively going through life having to base your life on what they said or did. You're going through life how you interpret what they said or did, which is up to you.
Yeah.
So.
And we're gonna do some practice examples of doing that.
Yes, we are.
And we need your input on how to judge favorably. We're gonna try to figure these stories out together.
Beautiful. Yes. So we're up to at this stage is
which book? Yeah, I want to know the name.
The book of the Sarah Yocheved Rigler.
I don't know.
Y'all just let us know which book you're. What I'm referring to. Charlie Harari. It's called Unlocking Greatness. A great book. He talks about a lot of how the brain works. Yeah, it's called Unlocking Greatness, and gives you strategies practically for how to make cool decisions in your life and hit your goals and get into good habits and a lot of what we've been talking about. So yeah, it's a good one. Okay, so what we want to just touch just briefly is just share maybe a couple strategies, or did you want to go through the cases first?
No, so strategies, so we know how to do it.
Okay.
And then
okay, cool. And if anyone has their own strategies how to judge favorably, please chime in. I'd love to hear from y'all. Okay, now the first strategy is basically to think of it like this: like, I don't want to live my life or live a double standard, right? So many times, behaviors that bother us the most are things that we struggle with ourselves, and we're quick to judge others for behaviors that are found in us. And I personally, I've worked on this, and thank God, since living in Denver, I've become magnificent behind the wheel. But when I lived in New York for a bit, it ruined me, and it turned me into a very angry human and an angry driver. So when someone would cut me off, I would not be so happy with that. Someone would double park, in front of my where I need to be. I was not happy about that until, of course, I needed to get somewhere, and I needed to cut someone off, and I needed to double park because I had something to do important. So it's funny how, like, we always come up with excuses for us. Classic examples like lateness. So they used to be like a pet peeve. I've overcome it, and now basically I'm always late. As any of you who study with me on Zoom, I'm so sorry. I'm really trying to get better. I used to be good about it, and I used to be super annoyed about it. And here I am being late, as if your precious time is not really crucially important to me, and it is. And I'm sorry, and please forgive me. And I strive to get better. But how can I be upset when someone is late to a meeting with me when I do the same thing? And I always have an excuse. I was just on a different call. I had to run to the bathroom. I had to go get a quick bite. Go grab a bar to eat or some sort of like diet shake to drink or something in between meetings. So how can I be upset when I do that to other people? And I have excuses, and I have to understand that they also do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so easy, like when I'm so good at something, to expect everyone else to be good at it. But really, we each have our own strengths. And even though someone else might not be good at it, they're good at other things, and I'm learning from them. So it's just really cool how we can learn to each other if we can accept each other's strengths and weaknesses. Yeah,
beautiful. I love that. Love that. And furthermore, I mean, when we do something, I think, Sarah, you alluded to this earlier, but like, I appreciate the benefit of the doubt, right? Something that comes to mind is, when thank God we just had a baby a bunch of months ago, 5 months ago-ish. And in synagogue, so I would have my phone out just in case, Sarah calls up, "Hey, sweetie, I'm, ready to give birth any minute now. Could you please come home?" And I didn't want to miss out on being able to help with that and be around for that. So I'd have my phone kind of with me on my person in synagogue. And usually when you're in synagogue, it's appropriate to put the phone away and to connect on your connection, focus on your connection to God, not to be distracted. But there are certain times maybe where it's important and where it's necessary. So that's like an example there. And I hope people don't judge me for when I would pull it out. And I expect myself to not judge them when they pull it out for whatever reason. So it's a two-way street, and we should focus on thinking of the double standard that can sometimes exist over there. And Shay, I see you. So the fundamental attribution error. Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Fundamental attribution error.
So this concept is called the fundamental attribution error. Thank you, Shay, for pointing that out.
Beautiful. Say that 5 times fast.
Excellent. I like that. You learn something new every day. We
all learn from each other.
Yeah. Exactly. Now the second point is something, the strategy basically, and we alluded to this. So again, the first strategy is basically the way I would like to be judged, to be sensitive to, to be sensitive to judge others how we would like to be, and not to live our lives with a double standard. And the second point here is to not judge others. I'm sorry, we alluded to before, is to don't judge other people until you're in their actual shoes. And again, we did say this before, this is a strategy to help us avoid judging other people, because like I said before, you literally have no idea what somebody is ever going through. It's so easy to just make a quick judgment. Someone that you're close with in your company leaves the company to take a higher paying job. And you think to yourself, like, what about loyalty? Like, we treated this guy great. How do you do that? How do you leave us? And you have no idea kind of what's going on. You don't know the relationship with their manager. You don't know the family circumstances, the mortgage payments they owe, the debt that they owe, the tuition obligations they have. Like you don't know what their life is like.
Right. And maybe the manager encouraged them to go take this other opportunity, or they're helping out a friend with their business who really needs help.
Exactly.
You never know.
Exactly. And then a third strategy is basically just to be aware. And again, it's all kind of repetition, but just good to pound in our heads, is that to understand that you don't have the entire evidence at your disposal. So pretend for a moment that you're a judge, right? You're in a court of law, and someone's presenting, a case, and you're asked basically to pass judgment, after only one side presented, or before you have all the evidence. So it would be absurd to issue a judgment before you have everything's been laid out on the table. So in life, nothing is ever laid out on the table for us. So it's never appropriate to judge. Now, finally, another strategy is just to avoid a temptation that sometimes we have to make up stories in our head that is often referred to as a thought storm. You start thinking these negative thoughts, and you just keep thinking and thinking and thinking all these negative thoughts, and it's definitely something that can lead you on a negative spiral for yourself and for your relationships. So that's another strategy, just to judge people more favorably.
Here, Ricky is commenting, quoting my favorite book, Judging. I'll read it out loud. Rebbitzin Machlis used to say, judging others is like opening a book to a random chapter and being confused with what's happening in the story. We shouldn't judge because we don't know the beginning of that person's story. So true. Thanks, Ricky.
Beautiful, Ricky. Thank you. Yes, and that's 100%. It would be absurd to do that, right? To just pick up in the middle of the story, when you don't know all the details.
Yeah.
So it's just not even logical to do this, and yet
we do it all the time.
We do it all the time. It's so easy to do. Meaning, hopefully, we've laid out the case, suggesting that it's so absolutely illogical, but we do it all the time. And now I think we're going to throw out maybe a dilemma to you, and we'd like to hear from you. That's what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
The dilemma? Okay.
So the first dilemma we actually got from, correct me if I'm wrong, we got from Eliza Ben Shalom?
Yeah.
Okay. Eliza Ben Shalom is a matchmaker and I believe dating coach on Aish.com. She has articles. She's in New York City. I've heard great things about her. She also has a book. Feel free to look her up. Eliza Ben Shalom. It's Leeza space Ben space Shalom. Anyways, so she gives a scenario that you are on a date with someone and it's going really well until the other person receives a text. And you're going to demonstrate. And great visual. He decides to read it at the table. Why is he reading his text at the table if you're having a great date? Thanks. Thank you. Great to have you here. Okay. Sorry, just responding to comments. Love your comments, guys. Keep them coming. Okay. So Why would he respond to his text message? That's so rude. Doesn't he like me? Isn't he paying attention to me? Does he not care what I'm saying about what I'm talking about? Is he bored? Is there someone else more important in his life that maybe I should know about? Right? Well, these things could be going through a person's head. So the question is, should you judge him favorably, she asks? What might have been the reason for his text?
So we turn over to you, Facebook land and Zoom land. Should you judge them favorably, or like, no, like clearly that's someone not respectful and not someone I want to be with? We'd love to hear from you. I know personally you're trying to converse with another human being and they're somewhere else because of their multiple notifications. You didn't take my advice like 4 episodes ago where I suggested to disable all notifications on all your devices. And you're getting bombarded with notifications. Should you judge that person favorably?
Depends on the context.
So
was it?
Don't always respond at once here.
Okay, should I read what we have so far?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So Shay says, depends on the context. The context of the, can you explain more of when you would or wouldn't? Charlie says, was it a family or was it a friend? Who was he responding to? Could the reading of the message have waited till later? We don't know. Would you ask him?
Ooh.
Guys, do you think it's appropriate that the girl would ask, like, who you talking to? Is that like way out of line? I want to hear you guys here. Okay. Morty says, this scenario happened to me 5 years ago on a date. They got a pass the first time. Second time was not okay. Okay, from Kayla and Shira, just so you know, I'm going to be reading your comments to everyone. I love hearing what you guys have to say. Yes, judge favorably. Someone that he loves could be going through some sort of emergency or something big, right? He should explain that he's going through an emergency, though. Okay, so he should tell the girl, we're saying, the Schwartzes are saying, what's going on, that there's some sort of emergency, but we should also judge favorably that is something. And I'm just thinking, like, what if you're not in a point yet in the dating that he feels comfortable telling, like, the whole story? Maybe there is something really big going on, but he's just not ready to divulge that yet. Or maybe it's has to do with a family member or something that's not really his business to share. It would be nice for him to say, excuse me, something's going on. I just have to make sure, that this isn't it. But of course, then would be curious. So I'd say, is there a right answer? Maybe there is. But at the same time, whatever actually happens, whether he responds to a text, whether he doesn't, whether she judges favorably or not, in either situation, move forward judging favorably. And if there's something that you want to talk about, you think it's really an issue, you should talk about it and always communicate. We bring up dating, I always have so much to say. But if there's something that's bothering you, communicate that, but communicate it in a respectful way. Don't communicate it in a way that, hold on, can you just fix that? Don't communicate it in a way that sounds degrading or like you don't respect him or you need to like hear what his messages are. Communicate in a way that like you really respect him, but at the same time, maybe you're just feeling hurt or you're feeling like maybe it's not as important. So think about it that way. Yeah. Okay, we have another comment. Leah says, my husband's always on the phone for work, so it's hard for me when I'm trying to talk to him, but I do appreciate his hard work. So it's hard finding that happy medium. So true. I think that comes up a lot for everyone, right? Sometimes, like, depending on your work, things just might come up a lot. What I've started doing for better or worse is anything that has to do with work or work emails, I literally, during the day, I don't even see them. So if you email me at my work email, you might think, well, why is she not responding to me? Aren't I important? It's a work day. But for me, it's like the total opposite, that I'm trying to give the people in front of me my attention. So I put it off, but like it really is important. So end of the day, you just have to, whatever anyone decides to do, just give them a benefit of the doubt.
Right. 100%. Couldn't say any more eloquently myself.
Little rant. But.
So I will read you just this article again from Elizabeth Shalom that, how are you doing, Mindy? Good to see you. It's been many years. I feel like the last time I saw you was in Disneyland. I don't know, LA. a long time ago. So I have you on mute there.
Oh wait, we can't hear you. Let's
take you off mute for a sec. Hold on. Yeah, I can take you off mute real quick. Oops, sorry. Feel free to unmute yourself as well. Wait. Okay. Ask to unmute. Okay. Cool. Anyway, but good to see you. Now we can hear you. Okay. Very nice. My mom, we're having a reunion on Zoom. My mama and her old.
I know. I've been having a reunion with your mom for a long time, but don't let me interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay. Very nice. We love reunions here on Live from the Bunker. Anyways, so this author writes, Lisa Van Schullem, and obviously it's a theoretical case, but I think it is quite plausible. And imagine this, right? So we're calling these two daters, Diana and David. And David's the one who gets the text. Diana is offended, goes to the bathroom, etc. Date continues another half hour. After the date, Diana calls her friend Michelle to set up the date to tell her her side of the story. He was so rude. He actually texted during the date. Michelle called David to find out what happened. David answered the phone and said to her in a whisper, "I can't speak right now. I'm in the hospital with my brother who was in an accident. I'm just here visiting him." Whoa. So you see, so you see that one fact that was missing changes everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely, positively changes the entire story.
Yeah.
One fact.
Yeah, just like Lee commented, I think, like you're saying, it depends on the situation. Like, let's say the person's family member is in surgery and got a text saying the surgery went well. But at the same time, maybe the person can say up front. So if they respond on their phone, they're not being rude. True. What do you guys think if someone just has a hard time not responding to their phone, but they apologize to that? Is that acceptable? Right? We all have different strengths and weaknesses. Is that a valid weakness? Morty says no. Just curious to hear you guys' comments on that one.
Right, is it valid to pull out the phone and be like, "Oh, my bad, it's
I'm working on it.
I'm working on it."
Maybe if he's working on it, right? At least that's the first step, is to be aware of the situation, and then if you're working on it,
right, there's a desire to correct the behavior for sure.
Yeah, better than most people probably.
You're not even aware of it, right? Right. Yeah. So that was, again, a theoretical case. So you might be like, okay, yeah, very nice, but it's made up. It's just a theoretical case. So I'm going to share with you a true case, again, brought down in this great article by Sarah Yocheved Rigler from H.com. And I'll basically just summarize it. But essentially, she, at one point they were putting in a new bathroom in her home. Maybe one day by us. We're going to buy some lottery tickets and hopefully one day win, and then we can get in a new bathroom. But a few hours after the folks left who were putting it in, she turns on the new faucet, and there's no water that came out. Nothing. Totally didn't work. The guys left, no faucet, nothing. So she calls the next morning, and the plumber says that he would absolutely come and fix the faucet. That's part of the deal. He'd replace it. Couldn't come the following day, but could come the next afternoon. So she waits, the 2 days, waits all afternoon, doesn't show up. At 4:30 p.m., she calls his phone. He apologizes, says he can't come. She says, quite annoyed, "Why not? Where are you? I think it would be appropriate for you to come."
Can you imagine that? They just finished the bathroom and it's not working right
away. Ready to use it.
And then
You're
they
so
can't
excited.
even come?
Right. It's like, yeah. It's like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like you buy like Xbox 360, you pop in Madden, 2020, and you're ready to rock, and it doesn't work. It's like, what's worse? What's worse than that? I'm not sure.
Actually, we just got new internet, and it didn't work. And I was like, oh, no. So we had to wait for days for the internet technician to come out. And the problem was they came a few days later. He came in and plugged it in. It was really our fault the whole time.
And on top of that, we bought, because you may have noticed, unfortunately, our connection when we interview people on the show, so we're not interviewing tonight, it's a little bit dicey. And we thought the reason is because the router is way over there and we're here. So we bought these like expanded satellites we could put up across the house. We have better service. And I tried to install it. Didn't work. Totally didn't work. So thank you, Jacob, if you're watching. Brother-in-law came to the rescue put in a couple hours. I helped us out. It was hard work, and I couldn't have done it. There's no way. He did it for us, and I was bummed. I was so excited to start using it, get rocking and rolling. And anyway, that wasn't the problem. I think the problem is our camera. So hopefully next week
it's on its way.
You can see my beard in more specific glory. Although I'll probably shave by then. Anyway, so we're in this story, and the guy doesn't come. 2 days later, she says, "Can you just come? Like I'm home." And he says, "No, I can't. I'm sorry, can't come." The next day, still doesn't come. No water. Life is difficult. Washing, bathing, it's very difficult. Takes a lot of time, and she's getting more annoyed by the day. We could all imagine this. And she actually quotes a book that I read in, I think in high school. It's called The Other Side of the Story by, I believe her name is Yehuda Samit.
Yes.
A great book. It's like a green book. It's an oldie but goodie, where it just goes through all these scenarios. And she reads the book, and one of the strategies given there is to imagine extenuating circumstances that could account for a person's acting improperly, she says. Since we have no reason to know, like what we said, what's going on, just judge them as favorably as is likely to be true as the condemning version. So she decided then to change her attitude, to change her perspective, alter her schema, the way she interprets these events. And she says that even if the worst plumber in the world, would not neglect showing up 10 times in a row, right? No one would do that. No professional who's successful would do that. So there must be something going on with his family. That actually must be happening. Yeah. And she realized that clearly must be the case. So she has this hypothetical story, which might have sounded a little bit far-fetched, and she stopped being so angry and upset about this.
Imagine all the anger that she went through in her, just because of what was in her head, right? I love that quote.
Yeah.
Letting someone live rent-free in your head when you're angry with them.
Yeah, holding a grudge is like letting someone live in your head rent-free. You don't want to do that. So she doesn't. She decides not to be angry. And before, whenever she filled up the water basin, she would become livid and upset and angry. And now, it's like, okay, no big deal. I have to wait, 5 minutes to fill up my wash basin. Couple days. But she could do this now without being so upset. She calls him every day still, but gone was the anger in her voice. So one day, sure enough, the doorbell rings, and there's the plumber with the new faucet. She greets him kindly, shows him to the bathroom, and asks him, politely and gently, is everything okay with your family? And he actually says, actually, it's funny you ask. No. And he gets choked up, and he tells a story. Real good, love?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It tells a story of how his wife, he gets emotional and just shares how his wife, with whom he had been married, for 17 years, ended up leaving to be with somebody else. And sure enough, that somebody else became violent and threatening her and their children, and comes back to this plumber. And he's dealing with this, trying to protect his wife and his kids, and to deal with all of this trauma going on in his life, all while this is going on, while he's absent and not showing up to fix her faucet, her bathroom. So imagine that one little fact. If she continues to judge favorably, then suddenly she realizes that. How does she feel when she gets that one detail? Yeah. Right? Everything changes. Everything changes in her perspective because she was missing that one detail. And I'm sure all of us, if you think about it, and I'm curious if anyone here, have you ever had a story, I guess not too personal, we're live here on Facebook, but have any of you ever had a story where you had a perspective, a very negative perspective, and it all changed just with one extra fact, with one extra detail? I guess while you think of that, if you don't have one on top of your head, I can just share one other very powerful story about this, and then we'll share a personal story we had. That's another one, because I think that this happens a lot, and we're missing one detail. So the story that I'll share now, I read somewhere, I don't remember where, but there's basically, in a synagogue on the high holidays, we'll call it on Yom Kippur, there was a sign that said, in this particular minyan, there's no children allowed under bar mitzvah age. We're very particular in this specific minyan. I think it's actually on Rosh Hashanah, that we can't have talking. When we hear the shofar, we have to be able to hear it. And it doesn't work when there's children playing. For that, there's youth groups, there's other minions for kids, but this one is adults only. So the Gabbai, the guy who like kind of enforces these rules, is sitting minding his own business, and then come 9:15, and in marches in, four children under bar mitzvah age, walk in, with somebody else, and the guy starts getting upset. He said, "Can you not read? Like, I don't understand. It says that there's no children allowed over here. He's thinking his whole prayers are messed up." He's like, okay, fine, they're being quiet.
He's so busy thinking about the children.
He can't even focus on his prayers on Rosh Hashanah, right? It's messing everything up. And then suddenly they start fidgeting. They start reaching for their lollipops and making noise, and the guy's like fuming, okay? And then you fast forward, he manages somehow to keep his temper. And then at the very end of the service, there's the Kaddish, okay? And suddenly these four boys start saying Kaddish. The mourner's Kaddish you say for a lost loved one. And then the guy understood. And then the guy thanked the Almighty that he did not say anything and he did not act with anger, because these children were orphans, and this was their first time in synagogue without their father standing next to them. And how fortunate they were that this guy was, that he didn't speak up. How would he feel if he spoke up and then realized what he did, humiliating these poor orphans? So sometimes we're missing a detail, and we see something. Trying to fix my yarmulke, and the video's like mirror, like it's wrong, so I'm all confused. Sometimes we're missing a detail, and that changes everything. So I don't know if any of you, please feel to type it in to share if you've ever had that. Just one other thing for us, and then you can share with us, or we'll end, if you don't have any stories like this as well, we'll end where we give you two stories where we're going to ask you to judge the case favorably, to tell us how to view it favorably, similar to, I guess, what we did with the dating scenario. So imagine the following, actually not imagine, this happened to us, okay? Sometimes couples argue, sometimes couples have fights. That's normal. Fortunately, we don't really ever, except for once, get into any kind of fights.
But that's not normal.
That's not normal. So you're fine. You get into disagreements with your spouse. Just be respectful. Don't raise your voice. Make up. Try to stick to the issue at hand, and you'll be fine. Okay, but that's normal.
Happy to talk one-on-one if anyone needs help.
Yeah. But we don't typically get into any like arguments. So one time, Sarah left on some sort of retreat in Baltimore, like a Rebbitzins retreat, leaving me at home.
It was like a mindfulness, get in touch with yourself.
Right. That's right. And I didn't, that was part of the problem. I didn't quite understand what she was doing, why it was necessary to do that. By the way, shout out, because JewPro is starting with Old on Me, actually. It started today, a Jewish mindfulness and meditation series. Awesome. So shout out to that. Thanks for mentioning that. Join us, hit me up, email me if you want to join that. For the young professionals out there, I want to be a part of a Jewish perspective on mindfulness and meditation. So anyway.
Can I give my side of the backstory?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I saw this retreat advertised and I thought it looked interesting. And then a colleague emailed me that there was actually a scholarship for young women to go on a program, some sort of leadership training. And I was like, whoa, this could be leadership training. And then I could go on it. And I was like, what a cool opportunity. And so I didn't really know so much what I was walking into, but I was really excited about it. So that's where I was.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get it. And when Sarah goes away, I do have this kind of like Facebook video series called hashtag Stay at Home Dad Part 1, 2, or 3. I think
check it out.
There's different seasons. Check it out from like 5 years ago, where I show how to pack a lunch in like a minute. There's some of the most epic videos.
The kid still talks about getting protein powder in her lunch, which apparently didn't actually happen, but she'll still ask for protein powder.
I packed her protein powder in her lunch, and I packed her a sandwich with 2 pieces of bread, one on top of the other. How to pack your lunch in a minute. So anyway, it's challenging, being home with the kids by myself, and I didn't fully understand why she went. And as the frustrations mounted, just with the natural challenges of being home, so did the frustration of just not having her around. It's just tough. So I was like literally counting down minutes until she would come home. For one, because I missed her a lot. And two, it's really great having her around just to help out with some of these things that I was struggling with. But more because I missed her. Like before we got married, when we were dating and living in different cities, I had like a daily, like I cross off on the calendar every day until I could see her again. And it stayed like that, thank God. So sure enough, I reached out and I just said, sweetheart, just if it's possible, just remember to try to make that flight, whatever it takes. And sure enough, she misses the flight. Now, I don't know what happened to her, but I get the call or I get the text that she missed the flight and wouldn't be able to come home for another like 4 or 5 hours. And I was like greatly sad by that. I was hurt by that. I felt like, Sarah, sometimes she's very social and very much in the moment and sometimes oblivious to anything else, which is a great way to be. She doesn't get distracted by those texts because she's focused on you, right? If you have that conversation, and I figured that's what's going on. And she kind of forgot about kind of everything back home, which she was entitled to. But that was my schema. That was my story in my head. And I had this narrative and it kept kind of going and going. And I went to bed kind of upset. And the next day, I think we started, speaking about, what happened and why I felt hurt and upset. And she said, she kind of told me her side of the story, which was?
I was actually really nervous about traveling by myself, which I don't often do. And I wanted to make sure to get to the airport on time. So I was at the Pearlstone Retreat Center in Baltimore. And I called a taxi. I asked who to call. I asked around the locals. And I called a taxi. I think I called a couple maybe the second one. I was on the phone. I was on the phone, like calling taxis, on hold, waiting, hours and hours before I wanted to have that taxi ready and waiting for me. And then the taxi guy wasn't coming. And he wasn't coming. And apparently he was stuck in traffic. So I installed Uber on my phone. I installed Lyft on my phone. I'm trying somehow to get a car to come pick me up to get to the airport, and no one could get there. Until finally he gets there. It's like maybe 30 minutes before the flight, something like crazy, or maybe it was an hour before the flight still. But then there was traffic getting to the airport. And by the time I got there, it was too late. And I was actually really upset about it. I tried to be responsible. I tried to do the right thing, and it just didn't work out.
Right. And you're upset, right? I mean, You were hurt. You were sad.
Cried.
You cried.
Yeah.
And when she shared that with me the next day, how she was like upset and like frantic and how she cried, like that changed everything for me in that one moment. It's just like, wow, I can't believe I didn't give her more of the benefit of the doubt. I can't believe I did that. Like, I felt like the biggest jerk, for feeling, hurt and upset, and feeling like having this narrative that she was kind of clueless and oblivious to our struggles here on the home front, and I felt absolutely horrible for reacting the way I did, and it changed everything. And that was a good lesson. That one detail that we're missing sometimes just changes everything, and hopefully we've demonstrated that point.
Yeah, that's like the perfect example of what you think the other person is thinking. Like, he thought I was thinking that I was just in the moment and wasn't getting a taxi on time, but that really wasn't what I was thinking.
Right. Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to just leave you with, and we'd love again to hear some perspectives.
I think this is a fun part.
Yeah.
I want to hear your stories, your ideas, what could go wrong. There's actually, I'm just mentioning this first. There's a famous, and then we're going to wrap up really soon because we try to be really good with timing. There's a famous story in the Talmud about someone who needs to make more money. So he goes to work on a farm somewhere, and I'm omitting all the details, but he works and works and works. And then it's time for him to leave, and he leaves and he goes to his boss and says, okay, it's time for me to go. Like, can I have my wages? And his boss is like, I'm sorry, I can't pay you. And he's like, can you give me this? Can you give me money? No.
Got an excuse for everything.
Can you give me some cattle, some this, some that? And he's like, I'm sorry, I can't give you anything right now. And the man went home, and he went home to his family after all this time away working, and he had nothing. Imagine how hurtful that could be. So then, whatever time later, like a significant amount of time later, not the next day, these horses, these chariots full of goods come, and they arrive at his place where this poor man lived. And it's his boss, and he has, look, can pay you now. But the boss says to him, what did you think when you left and I wasn't able to pay you? Like, what was going through your head? You weren't angry at all. So what could have been going on? So he's like, well, I figured all your money was lent out and your kettle wasn't really yours to give, and this and that, and like this whole an excuse for everything why I couldn't give him one thing. And he's like, you're right. That's exactly what happened. And imagine all the anger that he could have gone through, and that in the meantime, but he was able to avoid that and to live a more emotionally and mentally healthy in the meantime, because he was able to truly, on a real inner level, judge favorably. So now we're going to practice judging favorably, and we have some scenarios.
We need your help, because this could come up. I'm sure you've seen this come up.
And some of them are hard.
Maybe you're the guilty perpetrator, and you can tell us why you did this. At least in Denver, I don't know, it's like in wherever you're watching from, you're not really meant to go into a store or some sort of public gathering place currently without a mask. So let's say, just theoretically, you go into a store to get groceries. And there's a very clear sign on the front that says, no one is allowed inside without a mask. Sure enough, when you are in the ice cream aisle getting 10 pints of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, there is a person there without a mask. I will point out, by the way, that during the heart of the scariness of the pandemic, like we hadn't been to a grocery store in like 2.5 months or so. The first time I went into King Soopers, apparently you can only go like one direction in each aisle. And I didn't know that, so I went the wrong direction. So hopefully someone would judge me favorably, like, oh, the guy doesn't mean any harm. He hasn't been to the store in 2 months, and like I'm not going to judge him negatively for that, because that's true. I'm not trying to like break the rules over here.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even know that, and I even read most of King Soopers' emails.
Right, I don't either. But you gotta, anyway. Yeah. So
let's see. We have some comments here.
Morty, beautiful.
Maybe they lost their job and they can't afford to purchase a mask.
I love that. Right. I mean, so many people, unfortunately, in this pandemic, did lose their job, and who knows? I don't know how to get a mask. Like in my synagogue, they provide them, which is nice. Yeah. so that's nice. My man Stephen Pallet, shout out. He we have a mask from him. But
we have a box.
I wouldn't even know.
But
I wouldn't even know where to buy a mask. So that's a great thing. Maybe you're like me. You have no idea where to buy a mask.
Yeah. Or the masks are not available.
Not available.
Yeah. I did just get an email from Staples today. I don't know why I'm getting all these emails. They have hand sanitizer and masks. I think they're 20% off or something.
Wow. Staples, our other unofficial sponsor. Runa and Staples, this comes to you, this production. Anyways.
Haagen-Dazs,
that's right. A lot of shout outs tonight. A lot of love. Target too. Okay. Now, right. Okay. So any other ideas how to judge this all favorably? I'm seeing there's a comment here. Shell Station has as well. Good. Okay. So I think a lot of places have masks now. Good.
But what if someone doesn't have a mask?
Well, let's say, they don't. And let's say you don't know that so many places have. That makes it harder to judge favorably, I guess.
No, but like that's the point. Is right. It can be really hard. So, it could look like all the odds are against a favorable judgment. Then what do you do?
So I'm going to raise my hand, calling me. Oh,
they were
Ricky.
In a rush and they forgot their mask.
They were in a rush and forgot. That could happen to anybody. Morty seems to agree with that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Danny.
Tell me, okay. Thank you. So, you're right. I mean, right there's definitely a point to be made that it could be super dangerous for people. So it's hard to justify that. It's hard. It seems very insensitive.
Right. To at least cover, as I said, with something, even if it's not a mask.
Right. Excellent point. So it's hard.
What if they already? I mean.
Oh, so that's what I was going to say. Is maybe they already had it, and their doctor swore to them that you can't reinfect people if you already had it. We'd have to take that with a word of caution, because the science and evidence changes every day. I saw for 2 months we were told that if you're asymptomatic, you could absolutely give the virus. I saw yesterday the World Health Organization backed off of that statement. And then I saw today they backed off of that statement. So no one knows anything. You were told at first that the virus can live on a box, for up to a week, I don't know, 24 hours, 48 hours. And then we're told not. So it always changes. But let's say that their doctor promises them, promise them that they cannot, they can't infect. So maybe they think they're okay. I'm saying, this is my other thing. Yeah, Elle's pointing out very sharply, I believe, that she's pointing out something that there's my other idea. Let's say the person has a hard time breathing with it. I struggle with this mask on. I don't know how I'm going to be functioning in society with this mask on. It's hard. And let's say they have a difficulty breathing, and let's say they have asthma, and let's say that they're living in the mile-high city where it's anyways harder to breathe, right? So maybe they have a hard time. Maybe it will create some sort of medical emergency if they have it on, and maybe unfortunately they don't have anyone in their life who can go to the grocery store for them. Maybe they don't understand or realize the new technologies nowadays, where you can have it delivered or you can go for the pickup. Maybe they're not aware of any of that.
Maybe they can't read and they don't know, and they don't have anyone to tell them otherwise.
Right. Exactly. So, so that's...
maybe they had it already, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. And their doctor promised that you can't give it again if you had it, right? There's you hear everything. I heard that. I've heard the other side. Maybe they're convinced of that side, right? So
maybe they just think the whole thing is baloney in the first place, so they don't want to comply with it.
That's harder to judge favorably, in my opinion. But still, we do our best. Finally, there's this last theoretical scenario I read in a book, and thank you all for your comments on this. Tell me if you have any justification for this. Somebody actually saw this, and they wrote an article about it. I forgot who, but in Israel, so there's this thing that like when the bus gets to the bus stop, everyone gets on, and once it pulls off, there's no turning back. You can't get on that bus typically. They're not going to let you on. Yeah. I believe that there's fines involved if that happens. So one day, sure enough, the bus pulls off, and it's waiting at a red light. In the meantime, there's somebody who's blind and is coming, and they're knocking on the door. Knocking, let me on, and your average like Israeli who's observing this is like mortified. Like, what are you doing?
You stopped at the red light.
You stopped at the red light. They're yelling, Nahag, Nahag. That means like, bus driver. Like, what's wrong with you? This blind person wants to get on the bus. Let them get on the bus. Help them. Why are you refusing callously to let this person on the bus? And the question is, how do you judge that bus driver favorably? It seems cruel. It seems like he's acting with cruelty. Is there a way to judge such a person favorably? Okay, we're getting late, so think about the answer, type it in, and I'll tell you what this author reported in this article. So they wrote that this person, I think it was some sort of Rebbitzin, I think it was a she who was writing. I think she said that she remembered all of what we're talking about tonight, and she looked at this person. Oh, Morty says the guy has a mortgage, doesn't want to lose his job. Good. That's basically what she said. She looked at his face, okay, looked in his eyes, and saw tears coming down his face from under his sunglasses. Yeah. And how you doing, Chana? Good to see you. Thank you. Appreciate.
We had your sushi tonight.
Almost a couple times every week, Chana.
At least once a week. It's a staple.
Anyway, we digress. But thank you. So how do you judge favorably? How do you do this? So she looks in his face, and there's tears now coming down from his glasses, and she thinks to herself that, you know what? It's a fact apparently that in Israel, a lot of the bus drivers happen to be Russian immigrants, and things are hard financially for them, and a fine is like, I don't know, 300 shekels for violating this rule. And if the guy gets reported, that's, as Morty suggested, maybe he can't pay his mortgage, that month. Maybe he can't go to the shuk, the makolet, and get food for his children on this particular day
maybe
because of this fine.
Reported before for doing it, and there's
this is his last straw.
Him,
right? Yeah, maybe on the bus there's like a spy. I lead these birthright trips, and they have these like spies throughout Israel to make sure you're following the rules. Maybe there's such a person on the bus, and you just don't know. And it seems cruel. It looks horrible.
And if you're in the back of the bus, you can't see the tears on his face.
Right.
Beautiful. So you go what? You go home and all upset that this bus driver who was so cruel. How could he be a part of our society? But you don't know what's really going on.
Exactly. So, yeah. So there it is. We, if nothing else, hopefully we leave tonight inspired to judge favorably, right?
Yeah.
To give people the benefit of the doubt. And I would suggest, that again, in these contentious times, we're in an election cycle. There's, like I said, a lot of negativity out there, and hopefully we can try to avoid that and stay away from that. And if someone says something that we don't like, we can try to see their perspective before being quick to, condemn them and to not be friends with them anymore because of their comment that they made.
For the sake of the other person, for the sake of our relationship,
for the sake of yourself,
for the sake of ourselves.
That's first and foremost, right? Yeah. For the sake of yourself. That's really do it selfishly, right? don't have these great altruistic intentions. Just do it for yourself, as Murdy says here. Make midos great again, right? The right kind of message here.
Build our character.
Work on ourselves. Focus on building ourselves in this time. Again, as we're approaching now this sad time, let's really try to build ourselves up and be uplifting. And I want to leave you off again with a shout out for this program we have again of mindfulness and meditation with the great Jackie Glazer.
Such good reviews about it.
Shout out to Rachel, who's running a WhatsApp group where we're talking about the meditations, and not too late to join that, I don't believe. And then finally, want to leave you with, I know tonight we didn't do the hashtag, the kind of newlywed game, and we didn't do the question of the week, but we will do hashtag Rabbi Wisdom. I started off in the first couple of weeks. Again, don't play with fire.
Good to review.
Good to review, that type of thing. Now, just by way of introduction, I just read this article in a magazine I thought I lost 10 minutes ago, actually, and it covered a lot of like what I'm thinking about currently in the world we live in right now. It really captured it. And this author, I'm a fan of. His name is Eitan Kobre. He writes for this Jewish magazine called Mishpacha magazine, and he says that there's this. He quotes a passage in the Talmud. And shout out to those who were on our Jewish Experience Shmorg earlier, and I shared this idea at the end, but it's good to review. There's a passage in the Talmud that says there's a certain bird called the chasida, which actually is not kosher. So why is this bird called the chasida? The bird chasid, or it means pious. It means goodness, pious. So why is this bird, which is pious, why is it called that? And secondly, why is it not kosher? You think a pious bird would be kosher. So the Talmud there says that it's pious because it's actually a stork. It performs chesed and kindness. Chesed, chassid, the word kindness. It performs chesed with its friends, the people in its inner stork circle. It's kind to those people, and it does nice things to those other birdies, those other storkies. So there's a great Hasidic Rebbe, Hasidic Gadol, doesn't give his name, but he says that he basically asked this question about why the Torah gives such a positive name, seemingly, of this bird, which is not kosher, and it's not a kosher bird. We know that the unkosher birds were predators. They attack their prey, and they go after. They go hunting and that type of thing. And he says that the reason that this unkosher kind of bird, this more aggressive bird, is called chasida, yet it's not kosher. It's true, it does kindness for its friends. But, says this Rebbe, that the chesed that it does, the kindness it does, is only limited to its own inner circle of friends. And that, says Rabbi Kobre, quoting this Rebbe, is far from the Torah ideal of chesed and achdus, unity. In fact, he says it's a perversion of both. Wow. So what emerges here is that if somebody is different from you, if somebody is not from your community, if someone looks different from you, if they are of a different belief system of you, if they don't share your views politically, ideologically, or religiously, those are people specifically you should be kind to. And you should not just be kind to the ones who look like you, who think like you. We have to extend that kindness to every human being, to see every human being's humanity. Again, whether they're of a different race, religion, or even, system of beliefs or a system of thoughts. They don't see the world you do. That is specifically someone you should judge favorably. That is someone you should try to do kindness to. All those people who are not in your inner circle, those are the ones to do chesed to. That's why the chasida, the bird that does this kindness, is not kosher. This negative aspect to it, because it limits its kindness only to its inner circle, which is not a Torah attribute. It's not a Torah ideal. So
it's so crazy that this bird could do so much chesed that it has the name chasida, yet at the same time, it's not the right.
Yes. So
they're excluding people, even though they're doing kindness.
Exactly. So
birds.
So to just simplify this, because I like to keep my hashtag Rabbi Wisdom just as simple as possible. Be kind to people who look different from you and who think differently from you. Be kind specifically to those people. All right. So that's about it. It's so easy to do chesed and kindness only to our best friends and people we love hanging with, but specifically you should do it to those that you don't always share the same values as, or you look different than, or you think different. Okay. So that's it. Thank you all for joining in. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. And God willing, we'll see y'all next week. And we appreciate everyone's participation and feedback.
Stay tuned for our new camera next week. Hopefully it will be great.
Please, Hashem, please God, let that happen. All right. Take care, everyone.
Okay, good night.
All the best.